Hi, everyone. We're going to wait a minute or so for folks to join us. But for now, feel free to share your name and your role and where you're joining us from in the chat box. We'd love to know who's with us today. Hi, Matt from San Diego and Blake from Memphis. Bill from Florida. Hello. Welcome. Bill from Florida, from the USA. John from the UK. Welcome, Ron, Courtney. Hi, Jamie. Peter from Sydney. Awesome. We're international, Amy.
Yay!
All right. Why don't we get started here? Welcome, everyone, to today's webinar, From Toolbox to Tech, How to Simplify and Scale with AI. We're really excited to have you join us today. We know running a trades business often means juggling multiple software tools for scheduling, quoting, invoicing, and reporting. And if you're in the thick of spreadsheets and cobbling together multiple solutions and are ready to level up your operations, you're in the right place today. So a couple of quick housekeeping notes before we get started. We are recording this webinar and we'll send you the replay just in case you miss anything or want to revisit anything. Today's session will run about 30 to 45 minutes, and that also will depend on the questions in your Q&A. Please also make sure to drop your questions in the chat at any time, and we'll have a live Q&A, like I said, near the end, and we'd love to hear from you. We'll also have some polls throughout and encourage you to participate them to help inform our discussion. So let me introduce myself. I'm Emily. I'm from the growth marketing team here at Simpro, and I'll be your host today. And this is the first in a new series of webinars where we bring an industry expert on for live Ask Me Anything kind of session, holding nothing back about what it's like to run a successful trades business. And joining me today is Amy Carnrick, former CEO of Foster Plumbing. After selling Foster Plumbing to a private equity firm, she joined Simpro as a senior advisor of field service transformation. So she really helps us bridge the hands-on trade experience with the future of technology-driven business operations, in fact. Amy's story embodies what's really possible in the trades. She acquired and scaled a $1 million plumbing company to nearly $10 million in revenue in just 5 years. So she executed a successful exit and sold for 6x EBITDA. Now she focuses on helping other business leaders drive more profit. So she's really going to give us some great insights today. Amy, really, really glad to have you here. Did you want to share a little bit about yourself before we dive in?
Sure. It's great to be here and super fun. I appreciate you guys showing up. You know, my history, I'm sort of a serial entrepreneur. I've had a couple of businesses, and my son became a master plumber, and that's how this whole journey got started. But it certainly was a team effort, and I'm just appreciative of the success and being here at Simpro.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Great. Let's get started. So I want to set the stage real quick with a few stats. So nearly 60% of trades businesses say disconnected systems are their top operational pain point. And then industry-wise, it's anticipated that companies using AI-powered automation in scheduling and quoting see a 25 to 40% reduction in admin time within the first year, which is pretty significant because every hour saved on admin is 150 plus dollars of billable opportunity reclaimed per tradesperson on average. So that's significant. So it's fair to say, fewer applications and more AI-powered automation can really make a big difference in your business. So we're going to focus on that today. And so, Amy, before we get into how you optimize your business, can you first tell us a little bit more about it and, how you got into the trades in the first place?
Sure. Like I said, I was a serial entrepreneur, and I had co-owned a healthcare company and then a residential handyman company. I flipped some houses. I sold medical devices for a while. But then when my son got his journeyman's plumber's license, we had talked about it in the past, and I said, hey, let's buy a business instead of, since I had the experience and I could do it, instead of working for someone else. And the goal was really to build a legacy and make my children's lives better. And that was really what propelled me to make that decision, even though I had no experience in commercial plumbing. So.
Okay. I understand that. My father actually is a contractor himself, and my brother has been apprenticing with him. So legacy is really important to a lot of people. Mm-hmm. What were some of the biggest challenges that you faced when running your business before using dedicated systems and software?
One of the biggest things that happened to me was that very first summer. Like I said, I had no previous experience in commercial plumbing, and the demand was higher than I could provide the services for. So that first summer, I actually overbooked my staff. And they were working for 6 or 8 weeks, 60-hour weeks. I was out there digging ditches with them part of the time, and I just realized it was a huge mistake. And I was really grateful that everybody didn't just quit. So, and I certainly think that they probably thought that I was just trying to make as much money as possible. And that wasn't the case. It was my lack of experience. So I basically went to them and said, listen, this was my mistake and I'll never make it again. If you'll hang in there with me, I'll do everything in my power to make sure it doesn't happen again. And that's what I did. I set out to fix that problem, and it led me to Simpro.
Okay. Yeah, those are some things that can get out of hand really quickly. And I'm sure everyone was happy once you implemented systems to take some real control. Before I ask you the next question, I want to do a poll real quick to the audience. So please let us know, how many different tools or systems do you use to run your business today? Is it 1 to 2, kind of nice and simple, 3 to 5, manageable, barely, 6 plus, it's chaos in here, or have you lost count entirely? Yeah, I'll just give you a little time to participate. Thank you to those of you who are doing so. All right, so far the most is 3 to 5, manageable but barely, with one nice and simple, 1 to 2. I think that's really interesting. I'm wondering, Amy, how many tools were you using?
Probably 2 or 3, mostly just Excel and QuickBooks Contractor. But I certainly learned very quickly that QuickBooks Contractor was not a project management software. So it was early on when I bought it, and that's really all I was using.
Okay. What would you say was the tipping point that made you realize you needed to optimize and digitize your operations?
Again, that staffing issue that I mentioned, but also supplier pricing accountability was really important to me since we bought so many supplies. We were predominantly a tenant improvement company. And so we were spending thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on supplies. And we had to have that supplier invoicing accountability.
Okay. I also imagine that commercial and residential projects are quite different, and you had more experience in residential prior to that. I would think it's next to impossible, honestly, to manage commercial projects without the right software. How did you first hear about Simpro, and what made you decide to give it a try?
I Googled, honestly, what's field service management software, and I interviewed and looked at about 6 different softwares. It just so happened that the owners of Simpro at that time happened to be in the US, and I was able to talk to them directly. But I definitely was drawn to Simpro because there were so many different directions that I could potentially go into. And of course, Simpro has just a plethora of videos and training tools that I could look at and watch, and that was very helpful.
Okay. What was kind of the thing that made Simpro stand? I mean, you were Googling that kind of software. What stood out to you as opposed to other softwares?
Definitely, the training tools, the demos, but again, that the price discrepancy report was very big for me. I wanted to be able to quote something and hold the supplier to their pricing, invoicing 9 months later. That was huge. And then also at that time, I really didn't know what direction I was going to go into, whether it be service or whatever it is I might do. And so I loved that Simpro really it was so diverse. I could really move in any direction and still use the same platform.
Okay. Yeah, and I think like possibly just that all-in-one business process, it sounds like was really significant to you.
Oh, that was huge. I mean, you really, when Simpro is at its best, when it's fully integrated and it is estimating all the way to invoicing, and it's really top notch, and none of the other ones could really do that.
Okay. What was the hardest part of making the transition from paper spreadsheets and multiple applications to a solid all-in-one digital system?
Definitely putting the time in to build out the system for sure. You're already stretched then, you're already really busy, but there's just no way around it. And but at the time I had no intention of selling. This was for my children, but so it was for the future. So I was willing to just really dig in, and I was in it for the long term, and I wanted real data so we could always improve and do better at our estimating. And so it's just building that catalog, building the pre-builds are just unbelievable part of Simpro. If you're not utilizing them, then you're really missing out because they're awesome. So I just really built it out fully. So
cool. How did your team, like the techs in the field, the office staff, react to the change? Like, how did you get their buy-in? What did you do to help them transition?
I mean, the hard part was, we were all learning together, and we didn't have other software in the office really, and so we were all kind of rolling up our sleeves trying to figure things out together. And when somebody found something, somebody else would share it, and it was just really and I just said, hey, this is what we're doing. So everybody just kind of eventually jumped on board, and I allowed them to make their own cases with Simpro so they could ask their own questions directly to Simpro. And that's a really nice way for people to work independently. We eventually went to Simpro Mobile, which was fantastic. And people had their own personal wins with Simpro. And in that regard, people no longer had to turn in paper timesheets, which they loved. And it really supported us from a legal standpoint. And people like to see their whole week ahead instead of just getting a job card each day. So each person had their own separate wins. And we just helped each other out.
Okay. So it sounds like you were really in the trenches with them, which probably helped.
Yeah, I was learning right along with them. So
yeah, and change is hard for people. And it is important to note that like for any software, any new software, it can take up to a year for it to really stick with a team. So managing those expectations is really important. What differences do you think it made for your team most immediately and long term to really kind of win them over?
Estimating was huge because we were still trying to figure all of that out, and getting those pre-builds built and being able to turn those estimates around so quickly in a TI environment. And also, I bought Simpro about 3 months before COVID hit and the world shut down. And so we were in a fury to get out as many estimates as possible. So it really helped us because being TI, we're moving office to office and everybody went home. And so that was really critical for us. And in the long run, the data, of course, is what became so beneficial because then we could analyze, why did we estimate this and it actually turned out like this? And we could really, why did was it the labor that was a problem, or was it our under calculation of the labor? And so we could just really capture all that data and analyze it, and it's there forever. And so it's those are the long-term values. And we pretty much stopped losing money on jobs because we could see in the middle what was happening, maybe put our strongest folks on those jobs to bring them back. And just that site midway into the job was just critical. And not very many people have that. It's a great thing.
Yeah, that's significant, of course. Like, and I also imagine it really made things easier and eventually boosted morale, especially since it sounds like there was a lot of chaos before, and kind of once you started using it, and once everyone really got bought in, it really made everyone's jobs easier, and like you said, also helped with your margins and profit.
Yeah, absolutely. And people liked knowing that I had a plan, for sure, as a leader. And we were headed in a direction. And that certainly is helpful to morale.
Yeah, absolutely.
And buy-in.
You mentioned a little bit about Simpro's resources earlier, and they really are second to none. Even when I started working here and learning about the company, I was so impressed. Since you mentioned implementing Simpro saved you time and money, can you share some specific examples of how it did so in your day-to-day operations?
First of all, verified pricing in the TI world, or really if you're buying from a supplier, they can tell you it costs this much on the phone, but then somebody else across the building does the invoicing. So they'll invoice you a different amount. So holding those suppliers accountable to the pricing that we were quoted, that alone paid for Simpro. Our estimates were more accurate. We could make decisions based on margins. We could pull out of jobs if we saw that that happened the second year with pricing escalations. We were like, whoa, we can't do this job. We're going to lose money. So the schedule of values invoicing, because the way that I did it, I estimated by a schedule of values with the phases of the job. And so then the invoicing on that schedule of values was a breeze. We could estimate or invoice by a percentage, and then just basically copy that to our AIA forms. And that made a world of difference, made it so much easier for our project managers. And again, then we were able to bonus off of the profitability on the job, and the project managers could really focus on that. And there more than once, project managers were running to the back, getting leftovers and running them out to the job so that we could, get that job profitable. So it's just a lot. There's so many ways, honestly.
Yeah, that's a lot. What about purchase orders? We've had customers say Simpro help them spend about 80% less time handling purchase orders. That's pretty significant.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that question, to be honest. We kind of talked about that, but the one thing that's significant about Simpro is that the job costing is very accurate, because Simpro provides you with the PO, and along with the PO is the job number and an order number, which Simpro calculates for you. And then you can provide that to the supply house, and then you receive that directly to that particular PO. So job costing is extremely accurate if done properly in Simpro. So that is how I think the PO function really helps.
Okay. And that's, of course, like so important for your accounting practices.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
How did having real-time visibility into your jobs and finances change the way that you ran your business?
Well, I hate, sorry if I have to repeat myself, but I just can't say it enough. The pre-builds were so huge because we could put out $10 million in blueprinted estimates of work each week. It just was really made that process so quickly, the pre-builds. And the thing that I loved about that is that things are not being left out. When you do a pre-build, you should have every single thing that you need to install a water heater or install an RTU. And then you can look at your plan and go, well, I really don't need this, and I really don't need that. So being able to pull things out of your materials list is way better than trying to remember to add them. So, I can't tell you the first year how many times things were left off of our estimates. So that is a huge piece. I know everybody's dealt with that in the past, but also current pricing. That none of the trades that I am aware of, very few people. I didn't know anybody in Denver that was estimating with current pricing. If we knew a pricing increase was coming out in a month, we could add that to our catalog. And so when we sent out our estimates, the pricing was accurate, and we sold on that. We told our customers, look, you're not going to get a change order for a pricing escalation. So they love that. So, and I just don't know anybody else that has that ability within their system. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. And I bet like between the pricing and also the pre-builds and knowing what materials you need, that really managed a lot of those spontaneous runs to Home Depot and made them a lot less, right?
Oh, yeah. And we hate, there's nothing I think a business owner hates more than runs to the supply house. So, yeah, that was a big goal of ours, is to stop that for sure. We also had a lot of reporting tools that we built into Simpro from API dashboards. And I could analyze everything that was going on all the time, and any given half hour or whatever. So I was very dialed into Power BI and reporting.
Yeah, and that can I know the Dashboards Pro and the different mechanisms that we have on our platform can really help you use AI, for instance, to analyze reports for you. I want to talk a little bit more about AI. But first, I want to do a real quick poll again. If you could take a moment to answer, how comfortable are you with AI tools right now? 1, I use them all the time. 2, I've tested a few. 3, I'm curious but unsure. And 4, totally new to it. So let's take a moment for everyone to have the chance to answer that.
I'll answer Matt while we're waiting. Matt, we started with 4 and ended up with about 45 techs. I'm sorry, 25 techs, but 45 employees overall.
Okay. Thanks for doing that, Amy. We have some results. Okay, so about a third of you use AI tools all the time. Some of you have tested a few, some are curious, and some are totally new to it. So I want to, like I said, talk a little bit about that. What's your favorite AI app that you use personally, Amy?
Most people like to use ChatGPT, but I like Grok because you can get the AI person to answer you in different styles of voices and styles. So I think it's funny. I get a laugh out of it. So
I didn't know about that. That does sound funny. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say you could change it to the cynical person, the the therapist, the whatever style you want your answer in, and it's fun to kind of change it back and forth and just see what they would say. So
I love that you can change the personalities. That sounds really fun. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
I know for me, like I use, Google Gemini, for instance, is now, it pretty much just gives you the response to any Google search you use these days. I also use ChatGPT a lot myself. I use it for work, but I've also used it in putting together even recipes for what I have in my fridge, or like putting together a workout room in the gym. And between those and so many more, like Alexa and Shazam, like AI has been improving our personal lives for years. And I say all of this to point out that if it has been easy for you to adjust to AI-powered tools in our personal lives, which it probably has, and you probably don't even think about it being in the background, it's also just as easy for them to become easy in our workplaces as well, and bring them into our workplaces. Practically AI doesn't really get in the way of how you work. It should be working in the background, working for you. It's not designed to replace people. It's really designed to fill gaps, to help people be more efficient. So businesses can grow and companies can reap more and more rewards, like growth and profit. Amy, can you tell us a little bit about what you think of AI and how it helps trades businesses grow and ultimately profit?
I think it's really going to help streamline processes. And certainly one of the goals of business owners, anybody that's a business owner out there, works really hard if they're successful. And sometimes, working really hard for not a lot of return for many years. But, the hope is that we can work on our business, not in our business as a company owner. And we're, it's hopeful that AI will help us to do that and give us more freedom and give us some of our time back. And I just, right now, I don't think we can fully comprehend all the possibilities of what AI can do for us. And it's really an exciting time to be alive with regard to all of that. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I do know that when you were using Simpro at Foster Plumbing, we didn't have that much in the way of AI tools, not like we do now. What is the one job you wish you could have had AI to automate outside of what was available to you at the time, like that's available now?
One of the things that Simpro just came out with, and I thought, I wish I had that, was the AI work completed notes for the field techs, because we were always rewriting their notes and putting them on the invoice. This is what we completed, and we would always have to rewrite them. And so you can have them written properly in the fields and then put on the invoice properly. So and just making sure that you continue to present yourself professionally was a priority for me. And so this is just it probably took our service manager an hour a day just to do invoicing and recopy those notes. So it was really helpful.
Yeah, and just for anyone who is listening and isn't aware of it, WorkNotes AI bridges the gap between field expertise and back office needs by taking what your techs capture on site and instantly polishing it into clear, complete, and professional job notes. Amy, you just mentioned that it would have saved about an hour of the PM's time each day. And I think that's pretty significant. I mean, at the top of the webinar, we did say that every hour saved on admin is $150 or more of billable opportunity reclaimed per tradesperson on average. So that's a pretty big deal. What are some other things that Simpro can do now with AI that you would have liked to have had at the time?
Well, I think it reduces a lot of manual tasks, and hopefully the hope is you can focus on higher level projects. Again, working on your business and not in your business, and hopefully surfacing some mistakes before they become bigger problems. It definitely helps to, hopefully will help us to better manage our margins and where your money is going. And I think eventually we'll get alerts, instead of having to constantly watch the jobs, it'll be able to tell us this job is going awry, and so it kind of will manage your business for you and notify you of troubled waters, which will be great.
Yeah, that makes a big difference. What are some of the AI features that you're kind of most excited about?
Well, one of the things that, as I was leaving, we added on was Delight, which is a partner to Simpro. And they basically, by the time I left, we had over 7,000 contacts. This Simpro is an amazing database, and everything you do should go in there. And I was sort of very, I just made everybody put everything in Simpro. And so it was just a huge resource. And so Delight was able to then go in with their AI tool and just reactivate old customers. And they basically went into our database and sent out letters to customers that we hadn't heard from in a really long time, and just easily and affordably stirred up new business, reactivating customers, which was great.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool feature. It's really an email marketing solution that helps Simpro customers nurture, upsell, and resell past leads and customers. And the typical business actually using Delight sees a 20% boost in jobs and revenue within the first month, which sounds like it probably gave you an edge.
It did. I mean, we weren't doing anything at the time to reactivate old customers. So I think and to just be able to turn it on like a water faucet was wonderful. No pun really intended there.
I love it. I love it. So looking ahead, how do you see technology like Simpro helping you grow or future-proof your business?
I just love the fact that Simpro is a one platform solution. You can certainly add partner programs such as our accounting, QuickBooks, and Delight, and others. But every lead, quote, etc. You're really, like I said, building a database, which changes everything in the business operations and marketing and whatever you want. We didn't even do marketing the first 4 years I owned the company because we were busier than we could possibly be. But when we were ready to change to service, we were just able to add it, and we just dumped our contacts into MailChimp, and off we went to adding newsletters. So your database is the greatest thing that you are building and own in a business, in my opinion.
Yeah. And with like AI in that database, the sky's really the
Mhm.
limit for the future, right?
Yes.
Um, and stay tuned, everyone, because we will be announcing, some new features soon and going over what's been recently released in upcoming webinars. So, note, pay attention to your emails when you get those invites. Amy, what advice would you give to another tradesperson, another trades business owner who is thinking about making the switch to an all-in-one software?
Um, it's worth it. It changed my company. It helped us grow. Like I said, it's going to hurt in the beginning because you're having to spend so much time developing it. But that once you get that done, then you save so much time, you make so much more money, you can analyze your business, and so in the long run it'll change your life just like it did mine, and it helps you to run your business more effectively. So I highly recommend, and I promise once you get past the implementation, then you're going to love it. You just have to hang in there. That's a tough part.
Yeah, it can help you really run your business versus the business running you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Before we get into the Q&A, I want to ask you a sort of fun question because I want to know, and I bet so would others. How did you celebrate selling your business?
Actually, what I did was, and I just did it last month. I sold last November, but I took my family, and by family I mean my sisters and one of my sister's husbands on a trip through British Columbia, and uh, rode the little red canoe boats on Lake Louise and went to Banff and rode the train through Canada, and it was just an awesome, so we could celebrate together, because I wasn't very available during those times as a sister. So we all celebrated together, and it was just a great time.
That's awesome. That sounds really fun. I'm really glad that you celebrated and kind of celebrated big with your
It was
family.
fun. Yeah.
Okay, so let's get into the Q&A. Again, everyone, you can either submit your questions into the question box or into the chat, and we will try to get to your question. If we don't, we will make sure that someone reaches out to you after the webinar to answer you. So first, getting a new system is a big investment. For those of us considering Simpro, can you share when you truly started to feel the financial return? Was it like within the first 6 months, or did it take closer to a year to see that clear ROI?
I think definitely there's the short-term return with holding vendors accountable to their pricing. That was big. We were getting, maybe it's because we were smaller at the time, but we were getting invoiced something totally different than we were quoted a lot. And so that showed up really quick. And then of course, being able to pump out estimates more quickly. But really the real value comes 9 months down the road when you can analyze your completed jobs. Again, we were TI, so our jobs would last about 6 to 8 weeks. And actually, the timing was really good because I started to install Simpro in December, and in March is when my COVID hit, and we went to, I was so glad I was on a cloud-based system.
Yeah, it sounds like you really got ahead.
Yeah.
The next question is, someone's worried about their time commitment for implementation. What was the timeline for your team to get Simpro fully up and running?
Probably 6 months. But I never stopped with Simpro. It's not like it's a long process, and it's the more you learn, the more you can do, the more you kind of you continue to go, oh, I'm gonna put in tech specialties, and then I'm gonna do this. So you're always adding things because you can. When we didn't have a service division when I implemented it, but 2 years later, when we started a service division, then we added van stock. So it was kind of an ongoing thing we continued to build out.
Okay. Bill is asking, how much money did you spend on implementation as a percentage of gross sales? Would you be able to share that with us? I don't know.
How much money did you spend on
Approximately.
as a percentage of gross sales? Trying to think as a percentage. I mean, I think overall we probably spent, I mean, at that time, I think we were doing about 2.6 million, and I think I might have spent about 15 grand.
Okay.
So I thought that was well worth it.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Let's see. The next question is, since you successfully sold your business, did having a system like Simpro in place affect the sale?
Normally it would have. I've purchased and sold 3 different companies, and normally it would have. And it did, it just in a different way. People, the PE companies that were looking at us, which we had 13 offers, competing offers, they were really looking at our bottom line, which was much better. I learned last week at Symposium that the average trade company percentage of profit is about 10%. My profit margin, my net, my gross or net percentage of profit was 29%. So that's what they saw in a PE firm situation. But if you were selling to an individual, they would want to know more about the specifics of the software. But so it absolutely helped me because my net margin was off the charts.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Patrick is asking how many, and I don't know if you can answer this, how many TI estimates are possible a week with pre-builds, would you say?
Depending on how big they are, anywhere from, depending on how big they were, we would do $1 million bids in a day. But we would at least have, our goal was to send out at least 20 estimates per week. And we did. But a small TI, like what we would call like a just installing a sink, like a break room sink. I mean, you could do 50 of those a week. It's because it's just, they're all just about the same.
Okay. Blake is asking, when you initially brought on Simpro, how did you justify the expense when you hadn't actually had experience with it, and we're just really kind of going in and implementing it and see what happened?
It was super easy because when I was getting billed 500, for a water heater that was being quoted to me at $400, and then I got a $800 invoice. And so just the money savings on supplier accountability alone paid for Simpro. So it was kind of a no-brainer for me in that regard. Yeah.
Okay. Bill is also asking, can you explain further how you use work notes to translate tech reports to polished forms?
Well, in the field, the guys would, at the end of the day or at the end of their job, we would ask them to put in their work completed notes. And then we would copy and paste those into the invoice, but we rewrote them, which is nice now that you don't have to rewrite them. You can just paste them, and eventually you should be able, they'll automatically, hopefully down the road, and maybe now possibly, actually, I'm not sure, they should just go right to your invoice and you don't have to worry about it. So it's what's being said, you should probably always worry about that a little bit, but but in general, it should just be a much faster process.
Yeah, that saves a lot of admin time.
Mm-hmm.
Michael is asking, you've led both in the field and in digital transformation. What's the biggest mindset shift contractors need to make to truly benefit from technology like Simpro?
Now, I am not a plumber, so I'm not an owner operator. So I think in some ways that was to my advantage because nobody could drag me out into the field to do work because it would have been a wasted effort. So I was always working on my business instead of in my business. So, I think the biggest change you have to make is in mindset, and just not feeling like, because I think most of the trades folks I know really love to teach and train their craft. And, so it's very easy to get sucked out of the office and into the field. And I think that's the number one thing I would highly encourage you to stop that, and to just really focus on your business and make sure you're doing that.
Okay, cool. Thank you. If we didn't get to your question, we'll do our best to follow up with you after because we're at time. So I just wanted to say thank you so much, Amy, for all the insights that you shared. We really learned a lot of great things from you today.
It's been my great pleasure. And it's now, like I said, about the trades folks loving to teach their craft. My craft is building businesses and being an entrepreneur. So it gives me great pleasure to be here to help you and to have joined Simpro in that capacity. So I appreciate it.
Thank you. And like I said, if we didn't get to your question, we will do our best to follow up in the coming days about it. We also encourage you to book a personalized demo with our team so that we can help you solve some of the challenges that you're facing and see what Simpro looks like customized to your business. Stay tuned to your inboxes, as well as we'll be sending all of this information in a follow-up email by tomorrow, as well as information about more of these live Ask Me Anything expert sessions in the future. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today and for asking questions and answering the polls and really making this a dynamic conversation. With that, we look forward to seeing you in the future. Thanks again, Amy.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye.